Oh wow, what a morning that was, hey, with worship. Gosh, I enjoyed that. I just want to reiterate what Taryn shared this morning. Now, I haven't actually spoken to Taryn what my message is about, but basically she preached half my message this morning. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is that I would say, if you feel prone to take that word on board, okay? I feel that is a God thing. I think that for her to have said the words that she said this morning, I think that just backs up. It actually gives me a bit more confidence as well to know that what I have to share with all of you this morning, that it's on track. So I think it will be, I'll do my best to deliver it, and I just really hope that it will be a really encouragement for everyone. So anyway, look, it's so good to be able to see you all here this morning. Hope you've all been doing really well. And this morning I get the pleasure to be able to continue on with our relationship series. Last week, Rick spoke on overcoming image, and this morning I'm going to be looking at overcoming self. So when I was asked if I'd be happy to actually speak on this particular topic, I actually found the topic to actually be really relevant because it relates to the journey that I have been on for the last 32 years. So I thought, yeah, you know what? I reckon I can do that. I reckon I can give it a good crack. I reckon I can be an encouragement for everyone. But even though I'm up here, I haven't got the mic, I've got the headset, I just want to let you know something. I'm no expert on this subject, okay? And that's because after 32 years of being a Christian, right, I am still learning. And that's because when it comes to overcoming self, right, this is a lifelong journey. But I am 53, I do have some experience under my belt, and what I'd like to do, I'd like to be able to try to share some of those experiences with you to hopefully, to the best of my capability, be able to paint a picture for you all of what those experiences or what overcoming self looks like in real life. Part of what I have to share this morning I shared a bit over a year ago, so my apologies for those who may hear it again. But I am going to present it in a different way. So I thought, you know what, it'll be okay. It'll be a good reminder for those who have already heard it, and hopefully it'll be a good encouragement for those who haven't. All right, so when we're talking about overcoming self as being a lifelong journey, right, I guess the question is, what does the journey entail for all of us? Well, I think there's a variety of factors that come into play with it. As a few examples, I think our emotions, our feelings are involved. Our well-being and our personality, that is involved. The way in which that we respond and view situations in life, I think those things are involved. And I also definitely feel that there's definitely some spiritual factors that are involved. And I think one of the biggest factors for me, as I reflect back and I look at the journey, the biggest factor for me is probably the internal things about ourselves, which either we have difficulty acknowledging, like a bit of a difficultness trying to face, or there might be things about ourselves internally which we are completely unaware of that are even there. So that will mean there will be times along in the journey where, you know what, we might feel a little bit lost. We might feel a little bit alone. We might wander along and, as we journey, we might be thinking, how do we navigate through this? Like, where do I go? What do I do? There might be also times where we feel a little bit vulnerable and confused. So I guess the next question is, well, if that's the case, is there any good from it? Is there anything positive to take from it? And I'd say absolutely there is. Because when it comes to overcoming self, right, we desperately need someone who knows us better than we know ourselves to be able to actually lead us and guide us through life. And this is where I think Psalm 23, all right, this is the perfect guideline for all of us to follow in life, because Psalm 23 can give us a picture of how to live out life experiences and situations by faith, not on our own, but we do this side by side with Jesus. But in this, there is a crucial element, a crucial decision that needs to be made on our own behalf. You ready for it? We need to allow and trust. We need to allow and trust Jesus, because it's actually in the allow and trust, when we do that by faith, that the transformational process of overcoming self, this is where it actually all unfolds. This is where it takes place. So guys, Jesus is a gentleman. He's not going to force us to allow and trust him. Like that's a decision that we need to make on our own behalf, all right? We need to genuinely want to choose to do that. I like how E. Stanley touches on the allow and trust, and this is how he puts it. And he gets straight to the point. He says, if you don't surrender to Christ, you surrender to chaos. Surrender is not the best way to live, it is the only way to live. Like, nothing else works. All other approaches lead to frustration, disappointment, and self-destruction. It's a big statement, isn't it? So, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Right? This process at times, it is not easy. To allow and trust combined with surrender, it can be hard. Because our current understanding of how to view and how to navigate life, like those things, they will be reshaped. Our old behaviours and emotions, they're definitely going to be challenged. But in this is where a shift takes place. So it takes place from having head knowledge to receiving heart knowledge. And what I mean by that is this. We can have the head knowledge. You can have an understanding of Jesus leading us and protecting us. We can have all that in theory. You can read about it in the Bible. Many people come up and they've shared their testimonies and they've explained that. But to have an understanding of heart knowledge, this is something beautiful, and this is something that is revealed within. And it's revealed within when we allow and trust. So, it's when we allow and trust Him to guide us through our confusion, through our fears, through our hurts and disappointments. Have I just repeated what I've said? I feel as if I've just repeated what I've said. All right, anyway, I got a little excited there and I got a little lost. But anyway, we're back on track. So what I'd like to do this morning, I'd like to go through Psalm 23. So if we could put that up, please. Just to be able to reveal my life and how the allow and trust is unfolded. So, Psalm 23. All right, it has 6 verses. The first verse is the foundation and the main focus of the following 5 verses. All right, so all 5 verses, they all point straight back to the first verse. So here it is. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. He lets me rest in green meadows. He leads me beside peaceful streams. He renews my strength. He guides me along right paths, bringing honour to His name. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid, for You are close beside me. Your rod and staff, they comfort me. You prepare a feast for me in the presence of my enemies. You honour me by anointing my head with oil. My cup overflows with blessings. And surely Your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever. All right, so who is our shepherd? The Lord is our shepherd, all right? This is God Almighty. This is the creator of the universe. I don't know about you, but that is something to behold, isn't it? Right? That the creator of the universe is willing to look down upon us with our warts and all, just as we are, right? And is willing to lead us through in life. And not just in a way where we're just getting by in life. He wants to lead us passionately in life. When I was 18 years of age, I had a desire to get married, right? Now, don't ask me why at the time. I just did. I had this strong desire. But I didn't want just any wife. I wanted a Christian wife. Now, what makes this actually really quite bizarre is that I wasn't a Christian. Okay, I had never been to church before. I had never opened up the Bible. I would have no idea what a Christian was, let alone a Christian wife. Okay, but I had that desire placed in my heart, and I would kneel down on the side of my bed and I prayed for years for this Christian wife, right? So anyway, off began the journey, looking for the Christian wife. And I thought, okay, all right, well, where am I going to find her? I thought, I'll go to a nightclub, right? I went off to the nightclub. No luck there. Didn't find her there. I thought, okay, maybe an upmarket pub. Nope, no luck there. I was set up with some blind dates. Definitely no luck there. there were a couple of girls who I shared accommodation with just to make the rent cheaper. And, they were keen to go out on a date with me, and I decided no, it just didn't feel right. And I had a couple of friends come up to me and say, like, what's wrong with you, Jason? Just go take him out on a date. And I was very much, if I'm not going to marry him, I'm not going to date him, right? Well, think about it. You've got to pretend to be nice. You've got to pay for the meal. You know what I mean? Oh, the perfume smells great, right? So, look, I'm turning it up a little bit here, okay, as you can see. But I actually did. I actually took it very, very seriously. So one night I was with a friend of mine, Damo. And I went, hey, Damo. And he went, hey, J.O. That's just how we roll, Damo and J.O. And this is the truth, okay? I don't know at the time why I said it. I know it now. But at the time I said, just completely randomly, I said, do you believe in Jesus, mate? And he went, what? And I said, do you believe in Jesus? And to my surprise, okay, he'd never mentioned this to me before, he said, well, actually I do. I do believe in Jesus. I'm a Christian and I've been to church. And I said, okay. I said, are there any girls there, mate? Right? And he said, there's girls there. And I said, all right, let's go. So I am ashamed to say, okay, I went to church purely looking for my Christian wife. Oh my gosh, look at you all. Don't judge me. All right? Don't judge me, because God tricked me. Okay? He very quickly got my priorities in order. All right? So anyway, I went on to a church, and after a couple of weeks, the senior pastor, he invited me around to his house for dinner. And look, I was a young guy, okay? And at this point, I was not a Christian. And I respected him, and I think God was moving in the room. And I got telling him about how I had this desire for a Christian wife. And when I told him that, he had this smile on his face, little smirk, and he said, Jason, can I give you some advice? And I said, sure. Like, I respected him. I was ready to receive it. But you know, when an older person gives a younger person a bit of advice, you tend to wonder, I wonder if he'll actually take that advice on board, right? I wonder if he will actually receive it. So anyway, he looked at me and he just simply said, Jason, keep your eyes on Jesus and everything will fall into place. That was it. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Now, as a young Christian and as a non-Christian, I thought to myself, okay, what on earth does that look like? Keep your eyes on Jesus. Do I get a picture of Jesus and stare at it and hope that I don't blink? Like, do I do that? Like, how do I view that? And it was very much of a case of, I just bumbled my way towards God. I made genuine steps from my heart from that moment, okay? You know, in James it says, draw close to me and I'll draw close to you. And that is exactly what happened. So I started going to church. I got swept up into the worship. Like, the worship was awesome. It was apart from this morning, right? It was some of the best worship that I've ever experienced. Like, this morning's worship was incredible. I thought there was something really happening in the room here. Anyway, I got swept up into the worship. They did the call for salvation of who'd like to accept Jesus in their life. You know, I put my hand up 5 times before some dude came up to me, felt a bit sorry and said, it's all right, mate, you only need to do it once. You're good. Your salvation's okay, all right? But that gives you a picture of the heart, right, of just wanting to make that step forward and receive him. So anyway, a year went on, and I thought I'd get to the evening service, and I thought I'd get there early. And as I walked in through the door, I saw a friend from church. She was sitting there, and there was this other girl sitting next to her. And as I got closer, all I could see were these striking brown eyes. And she had this unique beauty, right? I kid you not. She just looked like a porcelain doll. Was that good enough? But seriously, I was captured like this. I'd never seen a young lady like this before. Anyway, so I sat down and I said, hi, I'm Jason. And she went, hi, I'm Chantal. She doesn't sound like that, by the way. But, you know, just to give a little bit of effect, right? But anyway, I sat and I spoke to her for 10 minutes. And this is the truth. 10 minutes is all it took before she grabbed her friend by the arm, she dragged her into the bathroom and she said, I'm going to marry that man. 10 minutes, right? Now let me tell you, this had nothing to do with my Eurovision hairstyle. It had nothing to do with that at all. This was God. This was absolutely God. And I'm so blessed and I'm so pleased and grateful to say that Chantel and I have now been married coming up nearly 29 years. 29 years. The Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need. Keep your eyes on Jesus and everything will fall into place. And I'm not just saying those words because I ended up with the best wife ever. All right? I'm not saying that. But the reason why I'm saying that is because as I reflected back, as I looked at that, as I looked at the journey, I received just a small piece of that heart knowledge, a small piece where I could see God leading me and directing me in my life. Like I know that he planted that desire in my heart, all right, because that was abnormal for a non-Christian young man to have. So I've shared this also the story, a light-hearted story, right, because this is the beginning of my journey, which I'd like to be able to call like my honeymoon period of my Christian walk, okay, where everything was rainbows and roses. Could we put up verse 2, please? So where it says, Chantel and I, like the verse suggests, right, we rested in green meadows, okay? The Lord led us beside peaceful streams. Like, life was beautiful. Life was great. Everything fell into place. Like, we had no dramas whatsoever. And I think, you know, that time in which that everything was beautiful, where it was all rainbows and roses, it was all great till it come to a point that it actually wasn't. And I think, you know, this is the challenge which I want to be able to bring up for particularly those who just accept Jesus and become Christians, is that we've got to make sure that we don't fall into this trap of thinking that now that I'm actually with Jesus, like everything's going to be rainbows and roses forever. Everything is going to be great forever. The overall end, the final goal, that's more than what we could ever imagine. That is beautiful. That is what it's all about. But while we're here on earth, there's a time when it's just a fact of life. It's not, because we live in a broken world. Could we put up verse 2, 3, 4, please? All right, so I find it interesting here that verse 2 paints a picture of rainbows and roses where everything's peaceful. Before verse 3 says, he renews my strength. And before verse 4 says, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will not be afraid. All right, this just reiterates what I was saying, that troubles, they will come our way. And it's not fun. And I know that there are troubles at times where, you know, as you're trying to find your way through it, like those troubles can actually seem so dark. And it can seem as if like, well, okay, how do I navigate through that? How do I find the light? Like how do I do this on our own? But I also find it encouraging, even though it says, even though life can be dark at times, verse 4 finishes with, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. You know, when I read this, I got the feel that, this is not written in the Bible, but I got this feel that David was more than just trying to tell us. I feel that he was like trying to cry out to us with this feel of like, you know what, guys, you don't need to be afraid because the Lord is my shepherd and that is all we need. Sound good to you? Yeah. Sounds great to me. Sounds like a great relief to me. So I believe it's in these moments that Jesus has two objectives as he leads us through dark valleys, and it's not just so the problems disappear. Number one objective, all right, I believe it's to build intimacy and relationship with him, where we come to a point of recognising our own inadequacies and our constant need for him. Number two, to experience sanctification it's by transforming us from within. All right, it's a rewiring of the mind, and it's that revelation of the heart, like as we go through, like really knowing, not a denial, like really knowing with confidence and strength that the Lord is all I need. And it's from that foundation and through life's experiences, right, we can face dark valleys with composure and strength. We're sure. There may be times where we're going to feel alone, but you know what? We're never alone. There's times where we're going to feel lost, but we are never lost because the Lord is my shepherd. He is your shepherd. So I feel that it's in this process of relationship with Jesus where two incredible things happen. It's through that where we overcome self and we are transformed into a mirror image of him. So the more we lean into him, the more we allow and trust, the more we become like him. So having said that, these two objectives, they completely change the perspective of how we approach dark valleys and hard times. Instead of magnifying the problem, we can now magnify the Lord. Now, 15 years ago, there is no way that I would have been able to get up here, come before you and say, it's all right, it's all good. Don't magnify the problem, just magnify the Lord. There is no way that I could have genuinely come before you and said that. I can do it now with a lot more confidence, right? It still takes faith, right? But I can do it with confidence. But before I could do that, genuinely, I had to go through that process, right? I had to live through it with Jesus, to believe it, to see it, and to taste it and understand it. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope I'm not going on too much. I hope this is being clear. Okay, all right. I come from a large Dutch family. My oma and opa came over from Holland when my dad was just a kid with his 5 brothers and sisters. And when... Darling? My porcelain doll? Thank you. Sorry. Anyway, so when they immigrated over here from Holland, they had to start all over again, okay? So there was very much this culture of you do whatever it takes to be able to succeed in life, okay? You do it honestly, but there was this culture of like you work very hard and most importantly, like you never give up. You never give up at all. And that culture was reinforced right through my whole family with my uncles and aunties, and that filtered through down to myself and all our cousins. And you know what? Everyone has actually done very well, okay? So as a young man, as I started getting more and more responsibilities in life, that's how I rolled. And particularly when I first got married with Chantel, you know what it's like. You're finding your own way in life, you're getting the bills, you've got more responsibilities and all the rest of it. So when problems would come along, when there would be issues, I actually found problems negotiating my way through that, and I'm not trying to sound like an idiot here, right? I found it actually very easy, all right? And there was a slight part of me that actually enjoyed it, right? And the reason why is because everything would go my way. Okay? And the problem with that, it was great to be able to solve problems, but the issue is that what it did is that it fueled my own self-sufficiency. That's what it did. So as time went on, we would face issues. I'd sort them all out until it came to a point where one day a shift came along. And it was a very clear shift where the issues and problems that we were facing in life, this was next level. Okay, it was like a tsunami of issues. We had problems with the school, we had problems with family, problems with work, the bank, so-called friends. And as these issues started to present themselves, of course, what did I do? I used my self-sufficiency, I began to dig in, I began to try, sort out, navigate, find my way through. But what I found was no matter how hard I tried, no matter how hard I tried to sort the issues out, I was losing more and more control as time went on. It was crazy. It was so inflated to the point where I actually began to think to myself, like, what is going on here? Like, am I losing my mind? Right? Is that actual problem, is it actually with me? So the fruit of that, this digging in through my own self-sufficiency, and by the way, it was the only way that I knew. I didn't know any other way. Right? What the fruit that came from that, as I just fought against all this, I became angry. I became confused. I was stressed out. I was actually becoming, the more I fought, the less and less of my former self with joy and peace and calm was beginning to disappear, right? But most of all, I just got so tired. Like, I was so tired of it all. Could we put up verse 4, please? Where it says in verse 4, your rod and staff protect and comfort me. All right, the comfort that it's talking here, this is not the kind of comfort that is comfortable. Not initially anyway. Like, I feel that there's two parts to this comfort. You know, if ever you've seen a shepherd's rod or crook, it's like a long pole and it's got a curved end on it. And what the shepherd uses it for is that when one of the sheep begins to go on its own journey, when it begins to do its own thing, right, the shepherd will reach over, will gently put it around its neck, and it will gently begin to be able to pull it back into line, to pull it back into the sheepfold, right? But if you've ever been to a farm and you've seen that happen, or if you actually looked on it at YouTube, what it did instantly, the sheep, is it began to freak out, right? It began to panic. It began to fight. It began to pull left. It began to pull right. And the only time that it began to settle down was when it realised it couldn't go anywhere and it had to submit to the shepherd's will, or when it became tired and weak. That was me. That was me at that time. I was pulling left. I was pulling right. I was trying to find my own way until a point where I came to where I was just so tired. So 14 years ago, after 2 years of dealing with what I've just shared, we'd moved back here to Adelaide and I found myself at Westlake Shore. I was sitting on the water's edge on the beach there. I had my head in between my knees, and I'm being honest when I say this was my darkest valley that I've ever experienced. I could not see where to go, what to do, where to go from there. And as I sat there with my head between my knees, I looked up to God and I said, like, God, if there is something you want to say to me, now's the time, because I'm completely done. I'm completely done. And I've never heard God's voice quite like this since that day. I don't believe it was the audible voice of God, but it might as well have been because it was just so loud. It was something that spoke deep within my heart. And as I called out to him, like, all right, what do you want to say to me? I felt that he said to me, it's not your burden to carry, right? It's not your burden to carry. And when I heard that initially, I thought to myself, okay, well, what do you mean? Like, I was confused. It's like, what do you mean it's not my burden to carry, right? And as I sat there just with God, I felt that he spoke to me again, where he said, give your burdens to me. It's like, what are you doing? Just give them to me. That was the feel in that moment, right? So as I heard that, I genuinely gave myself to him in that moment. Like, from my heart, I gave him my all. I made that conscious decision before God to say, look, I'm done, here I am. Just have your way. You know, it was in that moment where I feel that God may have been looking down and Jesus might have been saying, like, thank goodness for that. Thank goodness for now. Now I can work within you. Now I can renew your strength, and now I can lead you on the right path. Can we put up verse 3, please? So where it says in verse 3 here, he renews my strength, he guides me along paths, bringing honour to his name. This was literally about to unfold in my life. Literally. Because it was in that moment where I felt that prompting again, where God said, get up, go to Portlife Church, go pray with one of the pastors there as an act of faith of the commitment that you've just made with me. So I did that. I got up, I went straight to the church, and the first face that I saw through the door was Kev. You know, after a minute of talking to him, I was like so relieved. It was like, oh, thank goodness these people are normal. Right, well, no, because I genuinely thought that. I'm being real this morning, okay? Because what we dealt with all those years, it was so abnormal, and I didn't know what to expect when I got through the door there. So anyway, got a great peace and a comfort, and it was almost like that beginning there where I could begin to sense, you're in the right place. You're in the right place. I've got you. I'm moving you along. And so I prayed with Kev. I just reaffirmed that commitment that we made. And then 2 weeks later, I brought my family and we come in through the doors at Portlife. And this is where that second part of the comfort comes into play. So he's reached out with his rod and staff. He's got a hold of me. He's gently brought me back. And now we're going to receive that second comfort, because as soon as we walked in through the door, you know what? We were blown away with how we were welcomed. We were blown away by how we were loved. We were accepted for how we were, warts and all, right? And I had a lot of warts. You know, we were just so genuinely cared for, and I could sense as we started continuing going on to church, I could sense that burden lifted. I began to find, once I began to find my way in Christ and just allow and trust and lean into Him, I was able to breathe again. I was able to find my joy. It was beautiful. I'm so grateful for it. So grateful. You know, this emotion, this isn't upset. This is thankfulness. And I'm not ashamed of it. Such a relief. So I think verse 6, if we can put that up, please. I think that sums up what we experienced from that moment. And I think it sums it up just beautifully, where it says, "Surely your goodness and unfailing love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the house of the Lord forever." Guys, that is not just for me. That is for all of us. That is for all of us to be able to take hold. The Lord is our shepherd. He is all we need. So, guys, I know that I've banged on a lot about myself this morning, okay? It is not about me. It is not about me at all. But I've done that to try paint a picture for you all, and I hope I've done that well enough, okay? But if the 32 years of my Christian life and my 30-minute message this morning, if it's going to lead to one thing and one only, it points to Jesus. The Lord is our shepherd. He is all we need. Can we have the music team up, please? I can't help but sense this morning that there's been something happening in the room. That's God. This is beautiful. And I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to encourage you. Okay? I'm going to put out an invitation. If you have burdens, just like what Taryn shared this morning, that just reaffirms my message. If you have burdens where you feel as if you haven't given your all to Him, you haven't given your all to Jesus, like you're feeling like a little bit of a shell of your former self. You might feel a little bit confused. You might be a little like, what is going on, Lord? You know what? Lord knows us better than we know ourselves, okay? He knows what's going on in our lives. Whatever is going on, I don't know what it is, but would you like to receive His peace? Would you like to receive His joy? Would you like to receive that peace that nothing else can give, only God can give? Well, as we sing gratitude, I think that's what we're leading into. So glad I remembered that. But as we sing gratitude, I think that's the key word this morning. As we just surrender and give our all to Him with thankfulness, with gratitude. Draw close to Him, He'll draw close to you. Just surrender your all to Him and let God have your way with you this morning. Yeah?